Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Obelisk the Tormentor Yugioh deck profile for post the Egyptian God structure deck. With the release of the Egyptian God structure decks, we were given support for Slifer the Sky Dragon and Obelisk the Tormentor. Definitely good support that focuses on the main point of the deck, which is to summon out Obelisk the Tormentor. I would say one of the powerhouses of the Egyptian gods, just for the fact that you don't have to rely on having cards in your hand or using your life points to boost up the attack of the Egyptian gods. Obelisk just starts with 4,000 attack and 4,000 defense. You can always rely on that power of this card without having to worry about anything else. You can have no cards in your hand, you can have as many life points as you want, and Obelisk will always have that 4,000 attack, which is definitely something scary to use to go up against your opponent. Very happy with the results of the deck using all the new support we've gotten. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Egyptian gods, being that it is the Obelisk the Tormentor deck, we are running 3 copies of Obelisk the Tormentor. With this card, the big focus obviously is just drawing into this card. That's why we are running 3 of it. We have a good amount of different cards in the deck that can help to support the overall summon of Obelisk the Tormentor, with the biggest problem just being able to search this card out. So 3 copies of this doesn't really resolve as a dead draw as long as we have our other monsters that will benefit in special summoning out 3 monsters for us to tribute for Obelisk the Tormentor. Then we will have no problem. And with this card, it requires 3 tributes to normal summon, or it cannot be normal set. This card's normal summon cannot be negated, and when normal summon, this card's effects cannot be activated. And neither actually all of our effects can't be activated. Obviously you want to activate Obelisk's effects, but once per turn during the end phase of this card's special summon, send it to the graveyard, and you can tribute 2 monsters to destroy all monsters your opponent control. This card cannot declare an attack the turn you activate this effect. So it's kind of, not the original Obelisk. Obviously Kaiba would always attack with this card when he would tribute the other 2 monsters that are on the field along with it, but still a good powerhouse to destroy your opponent's cards while still being able to rely on using this card as a card to basically wipe out your opponent's field and then swing with it later on into your opponent. Being that we are using some of the Winged Dragon Ra support, I do run 1 Winged Dragon Ra just for the fact that we can benefit from the search of this card using all the different spells we have in the deck, and then being able to just give us the option of going into a different Egyptian god on the field along with Obelisk the Tormentor. It really made me wish we would have gotten a little more support with each one of these structure decks. We can have a fully focused Obelisk the Tormentor deck, but if you didn't want to run Winged Dragon Ra and just focus on these spells for the additional Divine Beast support, you can always take this card out for an additional staple in the deck. For the other monsters, we are running 3 Ra's Disciple. I've always liked running this card in the deck just for the easy special summon. When this card is summoned, you can special summon up to 2 Ra's Disciple from your hand and or deck, and it cannot be tributed except for the tribute summon of Slifer, Obelisk, or Ra, and you cannot special summon except for the effect of Ra's Disciple. So even if you have multiple copies of Ra's Disciple in your hand, being able to summon them out, the big part is that you can at least tribute them to summon out Obelisk the Tormentor as long as you have the additional normal summon, which you can get with a bunch of different cards we run in the deck. But just being able to have these 3 cards that much easily on the field to tribute out the Obelisk the Tormentor means you have your powerhouse and main focus of the deck that much more quickly to use against your opponent. For some additional cards along with a little bit more defense, I run 3 Guardian Slime. Not only does this card easy to summon out whenever you take battle or effect damage, but with it in defense mode, its defense will always become the attack of the monster that your opponent uses to attack into this card, and you can also use this card as the requirement to tribute summon out and special summon from the extra deck your Egyptian God Slime, just needing a level 10 Slime Aqua monster with 0 attack, which Guardian Slime meets the requirements. And once again, like I said, just the defense card to use until you can summon out your Egyptian God onto the field. For more summons onto the field, I also run 3 Reactor Slime. This card came out in the Slifer structure deck, but still very, very useful just for the fact that you can use the tokens and then you're not restricted except for summoning out a Divine Beast monster, which Obelisk is, to then use the additional tokens, and the same premise with the Ra's Disciple, having the additional normal summon to summon out your God card onto the field. For some of the additional support, just for additional monsters on the field, which can be a big benefit for Obelisk the Tormentor, just giving you more monsters to tribute for its own effect, we are running 3 Telus, the Little Angel. If this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Telus Wing token onto the field, and while this card you control, Telus Wing token, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and 1 spell from your hand to special summon 2 Telus Wing tokens, and you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except from your hand. You can only use each effect of Telus the Little Angel 1 once per turn. So not only will they be ideally the tribute if you were to summon out your Obelisk the Tormentor onto the field, but they can just be the additional monsters to tribute if you already have Obelisk the Tormentor on the field as 2 cards to tribute to use for its destruction effect of your opponent's monsters. To finish up some of the additional monsters that we run, I also run 3 Angel 7. You can special summon this card from your hand by revealing a level 7 or higher monster from your hand. You can only special summon Angel 01. I think I said 7, but that is a different card. This is Angel 01 from your hand once per turn this way, and when summoned this way, you contribute 1 level 7 monster in attack position during your main phase in addition to your normal summon or set. You can only gain this monster effect once per turn. So just another easy way to just reveal Obelisk the Tormentor in your hand, special summon out the Angel 07, and then if this card's on the field, along with some of your additional monsters, it can be the additional tribute for your Egyptian god on the field if you summon it out this way. Just remember, with Ra's Disciple, you can only special summon out your Ra's Disciple, so you will mostly need to use it for some of your other options on the field with some of your other monsters, like your Telus, the little angel, but still a great way to be the tribute fodder for your Obelisk the Tormentor once you clear the field of Ra's Disciple. And then lastly, for just the additional monster slot, this can either be a hand trap spot, but being the fact that it was reprinted in the structure deck, I do run the 3 Nimble Manga, just a monster tech choice. This can be, like I said, Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, you name it, but this one just helps for the fact that it can gain life points, which can be an additional plus with Winged Dragon or Ra, but when it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can gain 1,000 life points, then special summon any number of Nimble Manga from your deck in face down defense position. So with the 1 Manga, if you destroy it and then summon 2 more, those can be the 2 cards needed on the field to then use for the tribute of Obelisk the Tormentor to destroy all of your opponent's cards on their field. So it's my choice. Like I said, if you didn't want to run Nimble Manga, you can always put in a hand trap choice, being Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, you name it, or even Nibiru as another way to take care of your opponent's fields that much more quickly. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. One of the fun spells to use is the new Fist of Fate, the Obelisk the Tormentor's main go-to attack, definitely used by Kaiba a lot in the anime. It's a quick play spell. This card's activation and effect cannot be negated. If you control a monster whose original name is Obelisk the Tormentor, negate the effects of 1 effect monster your opponent controls. If you do, destroy it, and if you do, for the rest of this turn, the effect monster can match basically any negated effect of that monster and the same card name as that monster until the end of the next turn. If you activate this card during the main phase, you can apply this effect and destroy all spell and traps your opponent controls, and you can only activate 1 Fist of Fate per turn. So Obelisk can take care of your opponent's monsters, while the spell card Fist of Fate can take care of all their spell and traps, basically wiping out your opponent's board completely. I run through this card just as the additional option with your Obelisk the Tormentor to give you a monster on the field that can also have a powerhouse attack to clear out the back row, which can be a big problem when you're just trying to resolve a good number of cards on the field. For the additional tribute option, I am also running 3 Soul Crossing, another quick play spell. During the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 Divine Beast monster. When you do, you contribute a monster or monsters your opponent controls, even though you do not control them. But if you do tribute summon this way, apply this effect until the end of the next turn. After this effect resolves, you can only activate 1 card or effect per turn, not counting the effects of Divine Beast monsters. You can only activate 1 Soul Crossing per turn. So, little trivia fact, this was the card used, basically, I wouldn't say it's the card, but kind of Kaiba used Ishizu's monsters, which are depicted on this card art, to tribute summon out Obelisk the Tormentor, with this card being the main go-to play. Using it, I think it's very funny that they use that art style for this card, but it's very good for all the different Egyptian God card decks, especially just for the fact that you can easily summon out your 4,000 attack point Obelisk the Tormentor onto the field to make use of against your opponents. For extra protection and search power of your Egyptian God cards, I also run 2 Mound the Bound Creator and the 1 Terraforming to search them out. I only run the 2 of. You don't really need 3 copies of this card in the deck because it doesn't give you an initial search. When you activate it, it just gives you the search of a Divine Beast when it's destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard. Being able to add 1 Divine Monster from your deck to your hand, so your main search will obviously be Obelisk the Tormentor, but being able to have level 10 or higher monsters on the field not be targeted by or destroyed by card effects is a big plus. It's just an extra protection and makes it that much more difficult for your opponent to get rid of this 4,000 attack point Egyptian God on the field. But once again, you only really need 2. The Terraforming helps to deck thin this card out, so you don't really have to see multiples of it. But I still like to run the 2 because when the 1 does get destroyed and you search your God card, you at least have the option to activate another one if you were then to summon out another one on the field to protect it also. Now, going off of the Winged Dragon of Ra support, I also run 2 Ancient Chant. You add 1 Winged Dragon of Ra from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and if you do, you contribute 1 monster during your main phase in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only gain this effect once per turn, so with it, you have the option to search out the Winged Dragon of Ra. That's why I run the 1 copy of this card, just so you have the search target for your Ancient Chant. But giving you the additional normal summon means if you have Obelisk in your hand and the 3 needed monsters to tribute it out, you have all the requirements to summon out your boss monster. The big plus would be having the additional monster in your hand as an additional card for Slifer in that deck, but with Obelisk, it's just another additional god card to search out, having the resource available to you if something were to happen to Obelisk, for then you just to summon it back onto the field also. I also run 1 Millennium Revelation. This card searches out Monster Reborn and then gives you the option to then summon out Winged Dragon of Ra with Monster Reborn, but Obelisk doesn't have any restrictions about being summoned with Monster Reborn, so just being able to summon this card alone using your Monster Reborn that you search out with this card is a big plus altogether. Just having another additional search option makes it a good one of tech in the deck. For more setup of Obelisk the Tormentor, along with the additional tribute, I run 2 card advance. If you didn't want to run Millennium Revelation, I always consider it a 3rd copy of this, just for the fact that in the Slifer deck, it's more of a minus because you're giving up 1 card for the additional normal summon of your Egyptian god, where they'll be 1,000 attack points weaker. As long as you get that additional summon, Obelisk's attack isn't affected at all by any of those cards. So just having the additional summon means that if you have those 3 monsters, you can tribute out this card that much more easier, and then also set up potentially other cards on the top of the deck for you to draw into, whether it be the Millennium Revelation or another Soul Crossing, or our main go-to card with Obelisk drawing into Fist of Fate. For some of the additional staples in the deck, Monster Reborn. This is just one that's very good because it can summon Obelisk back, even just for 1 turn, to use against your opponent, especially then, because then you can activate Fist of Fate right after this card. The Call by the Grave to stop my opponent's graveyard plays, and the 1 Harpy Feather Duster, basically working the same as Fist of Fate, but Fist of Fate also gives us the option to destroy a monster on the field and restrict our opponent from using that monster for a good while. With the last of the cards for the main deck just being the 1 trap, which is the 1 Metal Reflect Slime. You only really need the 1. It's searchable with your Guardian Slime, being able to add your option for all of these different cards for being able to tribute the Reactor Slime to set the Metal Reflect Slime on the field and then activate it. Just again gives us the card, if we don't have Guardian Slime, to tribute out, to summon out our Egyptian God Slime from the extra deck onto the field. But once again, you really only need the 1. You have plenty of other cards to make use of to tribute out for Obelisk, whether it be your Angels, your Nimble Manga, your Reactor Slime, or even your Guardian Slime or Ra's Disciple. The whole point of the deck and all the monsters you run in the main deck is to focus on summoning out Obelisk the Tormentor to the field. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I only really won 1 of this card. The Egyptian God Slime acts as a great defense card against our opponent, protecting our Egyptian God on the field. Even though it's got 3,000 attack and defense, Obelisk is still a more difficult card to get over, but if our opponent is potentially able to get over it, being able to rely on this card as the first attack target can make it so it's very difficult for your opponent to just get even 1 monster on the field to get over Obelisk. 2, that much more of a deal to reckon with, I'm sure. And then being able to count as 3 tributes, if you summon this card out with the slimes, having it on the field, it could just be the 1 card needed to tribute summon out your Obelisk the Tormentor onto the field that much more easily. For the rest of the extra deck, it is pretty generic. We just run the 1 Link Karibo, the 1 Salmon Great Almirage, the 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Lena the Light Charmer, and 1 Area for the Water and Light attribute monsters we run in the main deck, along with 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Decode Talker, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Saryuja, 1 Borrelsword Dragon, and the 1 Borrelode Dragon to finish off the extra. Like I said, you don't go into it often aside from Egyptian God Slime, but still just good options if you have some of your main deck monsters and no Egyptian God card in sight. As for some of the go-to plays, one of my favorites still revolves around the Ra's Disciple when you summon it out and get the additional 2 ones on the field. As long as you have a card that can potentially give you a tribute, whether it be your Ancient Chant, your card advance, or even just the option of having these cards on the field, can then allow you to tribute summon out your Obelisk the Tormentor while also setting up potentially other cards from the deck onto the field. Another good one would be just having Obelisk the Tormentor on the field and then having the, let's say, a Winged Dragon of Ra that you have searched out with Ancient Chant in your hand, revealing it to special summon out your Telus, the little angel, onto the field. And then if you have this tribute, along with one other, let's say you summoned out the Guardian Slime beforehand, you have the 2 tributes required for Obelisk's Destruction card effect, but also you can always just rely on Obelisk along with the Fist of Fate quick play spell to not only take out one of your opponent's pesky monsters, but then having the entire back row destruction as long as you activated this card during the main phase, which can easily be done, because most of the time during the battle phase, you'll use this if there's just a monster that you can't get rid of on your opponent's side of the field that much more easily. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. It's definitely a fun deck to take a look at. I may even consider one day down the road with some of this new support, update the Winged Dragon of Ra. But for now, we're focusing on the 2 structure decks being Obelisk the Tormentor and Slifer the Sky Dragon. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.